Good morning. Welcome to online English class. Wishing happy Tuesday to all happy faces. I'm Tanya and today I'm going to teach you chapter 1 of unit 1 from First Flight. That's A Letter to God by G.L. Fuentes. G.L. Fuentes' full name is Grigori Lopez Fuentes, who was a Mexican novelist, poet, and journalist. He was a realist, and many of his works concerned the oppression of Native Americans. A Letter to God is one of his popular books. I'll begin today's chapter with a quote. Faith is like Wi Fi, it's invisible, but it has the power to connect you to what you need. I'll cover up this story under the following aspects: setting, point of view, characters, plot, climax, resolution, conflict, and theme. Let's talk about the setting of the story. The story is set in Mexico on a field in a valley on a low hill. A poor farmer's house was the only house situated there. As you can see in the picture, there is only house situated in the valley. Let's talk about the main characters of the story. The story has two main characters. First is Lencho the farmer, and the second is postmaster. Now, Lencho is the main character or the protagonist of the story. He's a poor farmer who is little educated but very hardworking. He wishes for the rain for his parched dry fields where he has grown crops. All his crops get destroyed because of devastating hailstorm. He is a simpleton who has firm faith in God, which leads him to write letter to God for help. On the other hand, postmaster is a kind and compassionate person who displays open-heartedness. After reading Lencho's letter, first he burst out laughing, but later on seeing Lencho's immense and unshakable faith in God, he resolves to keep Lencho's faith in God intact. He collects money with the help of his colleagues. He sends money to Lencho. Next is point of view. This story is being told from the author's point of view. Here, author is the third person who is not involved in the story. So the story has been told from third person's point of view, where the narrator, means the author, is narrating the story and telling us what's happening in the story and shows us the inner world of every character that appears. Next is plot. Plot comprises of the main part of a story, or you can say as the events that make up a story. Now the story is about the great faith of a simpleton in God. Lencho the farmer is hoping for rains so that his crops would give a better yield. He is expecting good rain this year, and rain does come, but is followed by a devastating hailstorm. Hailstorm destroys all the standing crops and leaves Lencho staring into the bleak future ahead. But Lencho is a strong believer in God and decides to write a letter to God asking for some monetary help of 100 pesos. Here I would like to mention what pesos are. Pesos is actually the basic monetary unit, or you can say as the currency of Mexico, the Philippines, and several other Latin American countries. Now, Lencho also wishes to repay the debt when the next crop would give him enough money. After seeing Lencho's letter, the postmaster is deeply touched by his strong faith. The postmaster decides to answer his letter. He collects money from his colleagues and sends 70 pesos to Lencho. He was expecting that Lencho will be happy, but the money sent by the postmaster is less than what Lencho had demanded through his letter. Lencho once again writes a letter to God in which he expresses his grief and his doubts about the honesty of post office employees and calls them bunch of crooks. He also requested God to send the rest of the money through another means. Climax. We all know what's climax. Climax is a turning point in a story. Now, in this story, climax would be when Lencho loses his crops to the hailstorm, which eventually leads to his writing of the letters to God as he needs money. A resolution. A resolution is the following action. But if you see the story is an open ended one and lacks clear cut ending. We are not aware about its following action or resolution, whether Lencho received his rest of the money or not. So, we are not able to find any following action and resolution in this story. Let's talk about conflict. There are two kinds of conflicts in the story. The first conflict is conflict between humans and nature. The another conflict is conflict between humans and humans. Now, conflict between humans and nature is illustrated by the destruction of Lencho's crop by hailstorm, as Lencho was expecting a good rain to have good harvest, as that was the only hope he had for his livelihood. He worked so hard to feed his family, but nature turned violent and destroyed everything. Whereas conflict between humans and humans is well illustrated when the postmaster, along with his friends and staff, sent Lencho money that he demanded from God, though they didn't know who Lencho was. But ironically, Lencho blamed them for taking away some amount of money. He called them a bunch of crooks. This shows that man doesn't have faith in other man, thereby giving rise to this conflict. Last, I'm going to talk about the theme of the story. The story highlights a vibrant theme that there is immense power in man's faith in Almighty. Such childlike faith can move mountains. With this firm faith and unbreakable trust, one can accomplish anything that is considered impossible. Thank you for being patient listeners and good listeners. I hope you understood the chapter. If there is any query, you can ask me those queries in your doubt session. Before I leave, I would like to wish you all a good health. Keep your circle positive. Speak good words. Think good thoughts. Do good deeds. Thank you. Take care.